speaking and teaching the Word of God. He's an uncompromising teacher of the Word. He will tell you the way it is. And I was so happy that when we invited him, he said he was going to come. I was like, wow, we're really humble. He's a humble man of God. So let's welcome our pastor for our time to come to join us.
I have taken off my jacket so we can spend some time. So no, let's pray. Father, we just thank you for today. As we speak to us. Open our eyes to see your word. We ask for the Holy Spirit to bring revelation. Thank you, Father, for we pray in Jesus' name.
Amen.
Amen. Please be seated. Okay. I am trusting God that I hope you have your pen and paper to write. If not, hopefully have your phone, because that's what my children do now. I came in to speak on something else, but Pastor told me yesterday, can you touch on parenting? And I'm like, absolutely, that's one of my favorites. And I see why, because I see all these children here, and I remember those days. Now I am looking forward to the grandparent stage. My wife and I were building a house, and I told my children, I have the house ready for the grandchildren, but no hurry. No hurry. I have the grandpa house already. In Malachi chapter 2, if you read Malachi 2, there are two places in the Bible where God told men that He will not answer their prayers based on how they treat their wives. Two places. One in Malachi, the other one in 1 Peter. But in Malachi is the last book of the Old Testament, chapter 2, verse 15, I believe. God was telling the people of Israel, you have to understand something about the book of Malachi. Between Malachi and Matthew, there is 400 years. And those, they are called intertestament years. Those were the years that God did not speak to Israel. It was a miserable time because God wasn't speaking to them. But towards the end, God was telling them, this is one of the problems I have with you guys. You are not doing the things I tell you to do. And in Malachi 2, verse 15, he's talking to marriage, so I will encourage you to read it later. But in the midst of talking to marriage, he said this, has not the Lord made them one, husband and wife, in flesh and spirit, they are his. Why one? Why did God, one of the reasons God created marriage, he said, why one? Because he was seeking godly offspring. Did anybody just see that? One of the reasons God instituted marriage is for godly offspring. You see, in this world, God does not have grandchildren. Have you ever, other than religious people say, grandpa, it's not scriptural. God does not have grandchildren. God has children. And what God does when you look at scripture is that God has given us parents the privilege to raise His children. I hope somebody's following what I'm saying. Giving us the privilege to raise His children, and once they get to that stage, one stage of life, they become responsible, and our job as a parent changes. In fact, if you have teenagers and young adults, you should start to transition your relationship with them. And we're going to talk about that in detail now. The reason God wants godly offspring is Judges chapter 2, verse 10. Judges chapter 2, verse 10. The book of Judges is a book written when Israel had no king. They had judges. Judges chapter 2, verse 10. This is after Joshua died. Okay, remember Joshua? Moses, then Joshua. After Joshua died, the Bible says, after the whole generation had been gathered to their father, the generation of Joshua, it says, another generation grew up who knew neither the Lord not what he has done for Israel. So basically what happened here is that this generation that did not know God because their parents did not teach them. They did not teach them. They did not say this is the way of the Lord. If you read the Bible, you see a lot of something called memorial. You know what a memorial is? God commands memorial. And the reason God commands memorial is so that we can teach our children. And without memorials, we human beings will forget. We forget things very easily, very quick. Again, that's how God wired us. We forget things. So God says, celebrate memorial so that you can pass down my instruction. Write it on the heart of their heart. So, we know that God has given us, His children, to take care of them for some time until they become adults and responsible and they now continue it. And for them to continue it, they have to do it in the way of the Lord. Now let me back up a little bit. Every child that comes into this world nobody is an accident. Let me repeat. No child comes into this world. Even if you parent think that child is a oops. You know what oops baby is? Mm-hmm. We're done. We think we're done. We have tied whatever needs to be tied. And all of a sudden, bam! I know a few people that happened to. One of my friends in London, I always joke with him. He has 3 that have finished college and he has a 7-year-old that he's walking around with. I joke with him that, man, you're going to be 60 when this boy. But you see, even that child is not a mistake. How did I know? Because in Jeremiah chapter 1 verse 5, God told Jeremiah, see, God called Jeremiah specifically for a purpose, and God said, I have, before you were conceived, not before your birth, before your conception. That means, before mommy and daddy do what mommy and daddy do, God said, I already know you. Not just know you, but already has your name and the assignment you are coming here to do. Now, if that is the only place that is in the Bible, then you will say, oh, you are making a doctrine out of one passage. That is at least in 5 places in the Bible. Isaiah 49:1, same thing is repeated there. Isaiah 49:1. Judges chapter 13 is there. Luke chapter 1 is there. So basically, God knows everybody before mommy and daddy even come together. God already knew that your mommy and your daddy have the DNA that is needed for your assignment. Did everybody understand what I'm saying? As I'm speaking, are you looking through Bible people who had a DNA raised by a different people because of their assignment? Me? Esther. Does the name Esther come to mind? Moses? Joseph? You're starting to see a pattern here. That really, we as parents are just caretakers. God already has a plan for the children, and our job is to raise them in the way of the Lord. Before conception, before they came to our house, I always joke with my son. My first son is a nerd. Okay, for those who are not familiar with that terminology, he likes book, unlike his daddy. He finished college mathematics in high school. When he got to college, they said he doesn't have to take math class because he already finished it in high school. So I always joke with him, you see, both your grandfathers are very smart. They have good IQ gene. Somehow that skip your daddy. You know how gene works. Sometimes you skip one generation and go to, you skip daddy and went to went to you. Your mommy has a little bit of it. So his gene, the gene he has, is needed for his assignment in this world. I don't know what his assignment is. He's a biomedical engineer. He's doing his master's now at Dartmouth, an Ivy League school. And before he just started, he's already getting offers of jobs. I'm praying that God will lead him in the path that God wants to lead him. But I can tell you that him being good analytically has something to do with why God destined him. Is somebody following this? Yes, our journey on earth also is not straightforward. So there's going to be a lot of ups and downs. Ups and downs. So, everybody get this? Now, let's come back to today's topic. The topic we're talking on today, which is raising godly children. So now God has entrusted us with these wonderful children. One of the things that we know, now, one of the things the Bible tells us, the Bible always gives us principles, guidelines. That Bible is very good with saying, do not spare the rod and spoil the child. Parents, do not exasperate your children. It simply means don't make them crazy. You too, you could be a problem, so don't run your children crazy with your own wahala. So the Bible gives us guidelines, but God has also given some people wisdom to write books on how to raise godly children. Now, each generation, each culture is different from one another. Some of the things we know today, our parents did not know. See, when I was growing up, my brother was beating more than me. He was way beating more than me. And looking back now, I think both of us had ADHD. But in those days, they don't medicate ADHD, they beat it out of you. You know, when you have ADHD, they use Kobuko to get rid of. Is somebody understanding what I'm saying? That is what they do, because you just find yourself getting into trouble. And your parents, I didn't like book. I hate their book. My parents, they will pay for me to go to lesson and do lesson. I mean, I know the book. If I want to be serious, I'll be serious. But somehow, I was just never serious. I just did enough to pass. And it frustrates my parents from here till heaven. When my daddy, he was telling me that when I started to travel and speak and write books, I was the last of his children that he taught. We would write a book, talk less or go around and talk to people. Because I was the one that was not serious. I just did enough to get by. Is somebody understanding this? So what we now understand is this. I want you to type in, there's a book I want you to search for me online. It's called The Complete Book of Baby and Child Care. The Complete Book of Baby and Child Care. It's written by 26 doctors and clinical psychologists and published by Focus on the Family. Now you can buy it for less than $10. When I bought it for $60. Yeah, $60. Now it's on sale for $10. I will recommend everybody in this room have that book and read it. Don't have it in your shelf. Have it and read it. Now let me explain some of the things in it to you. It's written by Christians, by the way. All these doctors and whatever, they are Christians. Here is what we know now about children. We know that children inherit our DNA. Everybody know DNA? Okay, 23. The sperm has 23 chromosomes. The egg has 23 chromosomes. You put it together, each child has a unique 46 chromosomes. That chromosome decides the child's physical feature. It decides the child's personality. Everybody get that? Okay. Each child, there are stages of developmental growth. Did you find it? The complete, okay. Each child There are developmental growth stages. So there's 0 to 2. There's something called 0 to 2. Okay. No. This is the secular. Is that it? This does not look like it. No, the complete book of baby and childcare. This is not it. This it has white and red. The author is something at all. Focus on the family. That one, yes. That's it.
It's on Amazon.
That one. I want them to put it on. Yeah, that's the one that my brother was able to pull up there. The complete book of baby and childcare. I don't want you to see this one. There are so many like it, but this one is secular. This one is not from Bible perspective. So there is 0 to 2. There is 0 to 2. Now, what happens to children in 0 to 2? In 0 to 2 years, children need to be carried. I hope somebody is understanding what I'm saying. They need to be nurtured. They need to be, you need to carry them. Yes, that one. That one, that's the one. You need to nurture them, you need to carry them. Do you know that if you don't carry children, if you don't nurture children between 0 and 2, they will develop emotional problems? Does everybody understand what I'm saying? By the way, they've done studies on it, and the children in orphanages who cry themselves to sleep, they develop emotional problems. Sometimes they don't have emotion at all, or sometimes they have what my daughter has. I have 3 children, 2 biological, 1 adopted. I adopted a daughter when she was 8. My daughter was born by a mother who had cocaine, and the state took her from the mother at birth. Between 0 and 3, she went from one home to another. She lived in about 6 or 7 homes before she was 3. At 3 years old, she was taken in by a single woman who took her in for 3 years and basically used her to get money from government. 1 year before she came to our house, she spent that whole year in a psychiatric ward. Okay, I'm being vulnerable with my own life with you. So when we were going to adopt her, she has a diagnosis they call reactive attention disorder, RAD. She developed that condition not because she was born by a cocaine mother, but because she did not have affection when she was born, between 0 and 2. And that condition affects them for life. Is somebody still following what I'm saying?
Yes, sir.
So all those theories that let them cry themselves to sleep, don't believe it though. Carry them now. Go, don't sleep. You will sleep later. Now that all my children are gone, I can sleep whatever I like now. So don't worry, time for sleep will come. Is somebody following this?
Yes, sir.
Between 2 to 4, there is also 2 to 5 really. There is another stage of development for the children. This is when children, they get a surge of hormone. They call it terrible twos. The reason they call it terrible twos is because there's a surge. They get a surge of hormone. Boys at that age, they are fearless because they just have this all of a sudden surge of testosterone, and they think they can jump down. They say, "Daddy, catch me! Daddy, catch me!" And they jump before you are ready. Girls get the surge of estrogen, and oh, what do you want to buy? You want to buy chocolate? Oh, daddy. They wrap their daddy around their finger. That's when everything they do is cute. So all of you know what I'm saying. Sometimes they do something bad, you can't beat them because you are laughing. It's very cute, it's very whatever. But then, between 5 and 11, things starts to change a little bit. Between 5 and 11, what now happens? By the way, everything I'm telling you is in this book. In much more details. Spiritually, emotionally, psychologically, they detail each one. So now, between 5 and 8, they are developing a lot. And between 5 and 8, yesterday I was telling you about hippocampus and amygdala. So for those of you who were here, those of you who were not here, there is something in the brain. The way our brain works, there are 2 organs that store information. Hippocampus store intellectual information, amygdala store emotional information. 5 and 8 is the time that our children store the most. We as human beings, that is the age we store the most. So that is why children between 5 and 11 ask you questions. There's no question they will not ask you. Because as far as they're concerned, that is the age they are curious. Daddy, why is the sky blue? Daddy, why is mommy... Yes. When, my child that I call a nerd. So, when he was, I don't know what age he was now, but I know that his mother almost sent him back to heaven. So he came to his mother, and he said to his mother, Mommy, why are you big? You see that he's heading into trouble. And his mommy said, oh, well, women, after we have children, we don't lose the weight, and we get big. And then, again, remember I told you he's a nerd. So he told his mommy, he said, that's interesting because you have only 2 children, but Mrs. I don't want to mention the name, Mrs. So, your friend, has 3, and she's skinny. And my wife said, come and get your child before I send you to heaven. That's what happened between 5 and 11. They ask questions. That is when they store the most information. Everybody is getting this?
Yes, sir.
Whether you tell them or you don't tell them, they will learn. That's why I'm telling parents now, make sure you tell them what you want them to store, or else somebody else will tell them. Yesterday I gave the example of that same son who came to ask me as a 9-year-old, where did babies come from? And I told him, I was busy, I told him, bum bum. I just said babies come from bum bum. Because I wanted him to leave me alone. 9-year-old, why am I going to be explaining bum bum to you? Anyway, 2 weeks later, I have my office in the basement, and I made the basement for the children so that they can come and play with their children, with their friends. So he was playing with his friends, and he told his friend, oh, I know where babies come from. So I stopped typing what I was doing. I wanted to hear what he would say. I was expecting him to say, bum bum. But he said, no, babies come from Virginia. I'm like, oh, I did not tell him that. So I had to call him. I had to go to the bookstore and buy books on how to tell a 9-year-old where babies come from. Now, you have to understand, when we were growing up, the culture we grew up in, you don't ask a question. If you ask question, I remember asking my grandfather a question, while he was talking to his friends. My mommy's dad, way old, very, very old, and he said to me, I'm talking and you're talking. Bombastic elements. In that generation, you don't... but now you have this 5-year-old who wants a question. Now, between 11 and 13 in girls, 12 and 14 in boys, there's now a new stage. Between 11 and 13, there's another surge of hormone. For girls, a lot of estrogen. Between grades 6 and 7, for some of them 7 and 8. They get estrogen and their body starts to change. Body starts to change. You know, I told my son when he was going to grade 8, I told him, when you get to class, grade 7, he was going to grade 7, some of the girls in your class are going to change. They're going to start having this, they're going to start having that, they're going to like you. You have to be very careful. The very first day of school on the bus, one of his classmates said, "Oh, let's be special friends." Good thing I warned my son before school started. I read it in the book. That is what happened. And at that stage, there's something called herding. Herding. Herding is something that is normal. At that stage, boys or girls, they want to walk together. There are like 10 of them. There's usually a leader and they follow the leader. If you go to middle school, that's what you see in middle school. There are 10 of them and they work like this. And they laugh awkwardly. Am I lying? They laugh awkwardly, they follow one person, it's called herding. At that stage, they don't want to have anything to do with you as parents anymore. I believe that is God's way of biologically starting to separate. They don't want anything to do with you. I remember when I was 13, all my cute self, I used to follow my mom to the market. At 13, I told her, "You're on your own, I don't go to market anymore." All my friends from school, they'll start seeing me with you going to the market. I was 13. I remember very well. So your kids don't want to identify with you. Boys starts to change too, because now they get surge of testosterone. With the surge of testosterone, things starts to change in them too. Their voice starts to change. One minute they are saying, "Hey, hey, hey," and the other minute, and it's very awkward, you know. They go to school and they're like, I remember me, I was drinking hot water because one of my uncle told me, if you drink hot water, your voice will deep. I drank a lot of hot water. It didn't work. I'll tell you right now. And then I used to put spirit. You know spirit? Yeah. Alcohol, just to have in Nigeria we call it beer. I used to put alcohol. That is what happened in that age. Things start to change. You start to become an adult. You want to hang out with your friends much more than you want to hang with your parents. At that stage, you think your parents are dinosaurs. They don't know anything. What do they know? They live in a primitive age. You know? That will go on. By 15, of the 10 group of walking around in tents starts to go away, and it gives way to 2 or 3. That is the age that a lot of things happen. That is the age that what you have taught them will come to play. Because when you have 2 or 3, that is the stage that phone thing that you gave them, if I were you, I would set something on it so that you get everything that they are doing on your own phone. There's a way to do that. Because that is the age where, you see, the brain, the human brain, develops from the back forward. And according to National Institute of Health, the brain is not fully developed till age 25. And the place where we think is right here in front. So it's not fully developed till 25. So you have children who think they are smart. Some of them are smart academically, but they lack understanding because of the function of the brain. So they think they can take risk. They honestly do. They believe AIDS will catch some other person. It cannot catch them. That's how they think. They think you will never catch them. That they are smarter than you. They lack the capacity to think of consequences. So many of them, if they are not been well trained, if you have just taught them to follow you, not teach them critical thinking, they will follow the next person that tell them what is pleasing to them. If somebody don't have baby, 1 year at least. The Bible actually said that. Deuteronomy 24:5. It says, take a year off. Just the two of you get to know yourself. And by the way, that is also backed up scientifically. So take at least a year off. But anyway, so my wife and I, we waited. But we also came up with strategy. At least I did, and I presented it to my wife. This is how I want to raise my children. Of course, I had a lot of cultural things in it. But for me, it was more Bible. And I told my wife, sports. I don't care about sports. They will do one sport so that they can keep fit. I'm not the parent that do this sport. From this sport, you go to that sport you go to that sport. One of my good friends told me, let them learn an instrument. He told me piano. I tried to force my children to learn piano. Both of them were not interested. So finally I said, pick whatever instrument, as long as you pick one. So they did. Funny enough, my first one picked the saxophone. So he plays both the tenor and the alto. The second one, because of his personality, he has gone through at least 4 instruments. Cello, he plays saxophone, both like his brother. He plays guitar. None of them very well, but anyway, that's who he is. That's his personality. But he has all the instruments. So, but one of the things I decided was that I'm also going to teach my children Bible. See, when I was growing up, I grew up in a denomination called the Apostolic Church. And in my church, in the Apostolic Church, there was a lot of Bible church. We went to church a lot. Church 5-6 days a week. Actually, every day of the week. But we have morning prayer meeting at 6. We have evening prayer meeting. We have Saturday choir practice. Sunday, you go from 8 to 9, Sunday school, 9 to 1, church, 1 to 4, your parents greet people. And you go home just in time to eat and then watch Village Headmaster. That was my Sunday. So, I grew up and I said to myself, I don't want that for my children. Because none of these people could explain to me what was going on. They weren't even living the life that says what they are doing. So I said to myself, I'm not putting my children through the torture of time for prayer, and then everybody's like, oh my God. I wanted time for prayer to be exciting and fun. So I said, no daily prayer. And I called my children, let's come together and decide what works for us. And it doesn't have to be one day. Because I know everybody has their own thing going on, whatever day of the week works in that week is what we do. I did not do a lot of prayer like I grew up, because I was struggling through my own understanding of prayer. But I made sure Bible, my children know Bible. There's still a program called Bible Study Fellowship. Are you guys familiar with Bible Study Fellowship? It's an organization that learned the whole Bible. It used to be 7 years when we did it. Now it's 9 years. They learned the whole Bible. And I'm talking deep study of the Bible. My children, both my boys went through it. Every Monday, we went. Whether I travel or don't travel, it doesn't matter where I travel to. When I come home, I might go there and sleep, but I will go. We did it, each boy did it for 7 years. So now, people ask me, how did your children know Bible? And I tell them it's not by osmosis. It's work. Because we went for Bible Study Fellowship, and in church, I registered them for Junior Bible Quiz. Junior Bible Quiz is a program by Assemblies of God. I've really tried to push it into Redeem, but I've not been successful with people at the top. It's competition. Like, you buy and the children buzz in, they memorize, they get 10 points, 20 points, 30 points. My children went through it from grade 1 to grade 6, both of them. So they know Bible. Whether they know and understand, whatever, but they were there to learn, because the Bible says, train up a child, drum it into their, and I know for a fact that between that age, 5 and 11, that is when they are learning, they are studying a lot. So at that age, I make sure JBQ and Bible study was their friend. Now, my daughter, who was not in my house, and who came in with rebellion, who were struggling with personality issues, she did not have that. One other thing we also did was every summer we paid for the children to go to a Christian camp. We went to Kanakuk Camp in Missouri. I don't know if you guys have heard about Kanakuk.
I have your answer.
Christian camp. Children go there for like, is it 6 weeks? 2 weeks. A little expensive, but you know what? We prepared for it because we knew what we wanted for our children. We did not buy expensive cars. We walked within our whatever. It wasn't because we had extra money, but we had our priority. That was my goal. And to God be the glory, the children, the children knew, my children know Bible. By the time they became an adult, I realized that I had not taught them very well how to fast and pray, like I grew up.
Dad, I was trying.
But you know what? God will teach them that. But in terms of Bible knowledge, I give God the praise. My children, they don't do Moses and Goliath. They do exegesis and hermeneutics and all those things. I don't know, and you can see the difference in my daughter who was not trained, who didn't come up in that way. Even though we tried to jam a lot of things in her, but she still knows. Even in her rebellion now, when I talk to her, she knows. The last time I spent with her, we were in the ER till 1 a.m. about a couple of weeks ago. And I kept telling her, do you know the story of prodigal daughter? Oh, yeah, his daughter, I can change it to whatever I like. You know the story? She said, I know. And we started to talk. And I know that all those things actually is there. So I started to appeal to that in her. Is somebody understanding what I'm saying? You train. You have a plan. Do not. One other book I really like, The Strong-Willed Child, or The New Strong-Willed Child by James Dobson. The New Strong-Willed Child by James Dobson. That's another book that really helped me. See, James Dobson is a clinical psychologist a child clinical psychologist who also happens to be a Christian. I don't know if some of you have heard of his name. He has written many books for children, from Bible perspective. But that particular book, The New Strong-Willed Child, he's written many. Dare to Discipline, Raising Up Boys, Raising Up Girls, and things like that. But The Strong-Willed Child really ministered to me because my first son is a compliant child. You know what I mean by compliant? A compliant child is the child that you tell to stay here, and they stay there. They just logically decide, this is good. A strong-willed child is that child that you say, stay here, and you tell them this is your boundary, and this is where they stay. And they start looking at you like, can I come out here now? See, a compliant child will stay right here. But a strong-willed child, this is where they will stay. And they will ask you every second, is it time to move? Can I move now? They see your boundary as just a suggestion. So you cannot break the will of a strong will. Most people who succeed in life are strong-willed. Most people who succeed in life, Franklin Graham, strong-willed. They are children that take risk. Because as adults, they also take risk. But you just want to help shape them so that they don't take the wrong risk. That's what you want to do. You don't want to break that attitude of risk-taking. Paul the apostle, as a Pharisee, he was the one going after the people of the way. There were other Pharisees, but they couldn't care less. But he was this one that had zeal. That's why Jesus chose him, because Jesus knew he was the child that stayed here and say, hey, what are you? I will fight you. Oh, yeah, you come. I will come. Is somebody understanding? that is, you understand that and you train that child up in that way. Now, what James Dobson said, I'm going to say this and then you can ask me a question. What James Dobson said, which I use, he said a couple of things, which I use in my own home, is the first thing was separate childish behavior from discipline. Okay, what is the difference? Childish behavior are behaviors that a child does based on age. Okay, so a 2 to 4 year old or 2 to 4 year old who are getting surge of hormone, they don't know if your Rolex costs 10,000. If you put your Rolex on the floor, they will put it in the bathroom and flush it. They will take pen and go to your car, your new car, that you waited to buy all your life, and write, "I love Daddy" on it with it. Is somebody understanding it? They don't have a comprehension of what things are. If you put your computer on the floor, they will think it is bouncing, yes, you know. That is childish. Teenagers. I see some parents say, "Oh, you're not going to hang with your friends. You're just wasting your time." Between 11 and 13, 12 and 14, teenagers will hurt. They will hang out with friends. They will prefer their friends more than you. If you try and put like an parent, like, you will not go. That is the children that will run around your back and go. What you want to do is, before they turn 11, you want to guide them to the type of friends that they will follow at 11. I hope somebody is understanding what I'm saying. For me, it's just because we go to the same church doesn't mean I will let my children play with your children. Because your value, in fact, there was a family. I told my children, when my children were growing up, they couldn't watch SpongeBob. That was it's called SpongeBob. They couldn't. They went to my friend's house, and he told them to watch SpongeBob, and my children said, my compliant child, the strong-willed one, didn't care. He was already watching SpongeBob. But my compliant child said, "No, our daddy does not allow us to watch SpongeBob." And my friend was trying to make them, and my son, this compliant one, said, "My daddy already said no SpongeBob." So he went to sit somewhere else. So when they got home, they told me, and I told my friend, "Why are you doing that?" I'm not saying SpongeBob is not good for your own children, but for my children, they even told you. That was the last time they went to his house. I have no problem with that. I'm the one raising my children. I'm responsible to God, not you. I'm not about to make friends. I'm raising godly offspring. That's a command God gave me. You can do your own whatever you like. I'm not going to answer for your family. So that's how I choose friends. I choose friends based on the values that their parents have. So when my children turned 11, the kids they were hanging out with, they thought those were their friends. They were the friends that their mommy and I directed them to. One of the best advice I got, somebody gave me, I don't remember who gave me this advice. The person said, your basement, the basement of your house, make your house, yeah, tell daddy. He said, make your house the house that the neighborhood children want to come. Not kidding you. So the basement was the haven of children that age. It had all the games. It had I bought ping pong table. I bought everything so that the children can. So their friends, of course, their friends don't want them to come to their house because their own house don't have the cool stuff. So they are always begging their own friends to come. It worked. It worked. Somebody gave me that advice and I'm like, oh, why not? At least for me, it worked. Because my children used to hate it though, because they want to go out, but their friends want to come to their house because of the cool stuff. I'm doing the same thing now, by the way. The house that we're building now, I'm making it a cool house so that my grandchildren can tell their parents, just drop us at grandma and grandpa's house. Okay, just drop us there and you can live. And I told my children, all these things that I'm doing on the outside is for my grandchildren, so that my grandchildren, they will tell you that they like grandpa's house. I ain't hiding that. So, you have to understand and you have to prepare, you have to teach. Children, they know more than what we think. The last point I'll make, oh no, I keep saying the last point, not the last point. I just told you about, okay, let me go to the discipline. Okay, I'll finish that one. The discipline. James Dobson said, don't discipline for childish behavior, discipline for disobedience. Disobedience is now when you have told that child, don't do that again. And then when they now do it again, you now have to discipline. Now, one of the controversy in Christianity is corporal punishment. The Bible says, spare the rod and spoil the child. I believe in corporal punishment. But I like what James Dobson wrote in his book. And that's what I use for my children. James Dobson said corporal punishment. By the way, he's a clinical psychologist. He said corporal punishment, the Bible recommends corporal punishment. But it is not for all the ages. Corporal punishment for an 18-month-old does not make sense. Corporal punishment for a 14, 15-year-old does not make sense at all. Now, between that age, 4-year-old and 11, they actually hate corporal punishment. For some of them, it is a deterrent. You might have some strong-willed child who will push you a little bit. Now, what he now recommends is, he recommends a couple of things in his book, and I really love it. He said, make sure you do a touch 3 strike. So, don't beat your child on the first disobedience. Warn them. Second time, warn them. The third time, then you have to spank. Don't spank with your hand. Never use your hand. Let your hand be seen as a thing of joy to bring them back after you spank them with belt or board of education. If you go to Texas people, they sell this thing in their stores. It's like a spatula, but they wrote board of education on it. You can use it on the seat of knowledge or on the hand. Don't use it where it will cause damage. Never beat under anger while you are angry. Never ever beat your child while you're angry, or else you will do harm. After you have calmed down, after that child has thrown your Rolex and flushed it down, calm down and pray that God will give you another money for Rolex. Then, if that is the third strike, you now call that child. At least what I did. Why did you do that? Didn't Daddy tell you not to do that? Yes, you did. Okay, so what comes in after? My daughter, my wife did not want to give her phone. When she turned 13, I was the one that said, let's give her phone. Because, in school, everybody has phone. But because I know the person I have, we agreed. I said, you go and write the rule of the phone. You yourself write the rule. So she wrote the rule, I added a little bit, she signed it, I signed it, we put it on the fridge. I'm serious, we put it on the fridge. The very first day she broke the rule. Very first day. And I took the phone because the rule is already there. If I break this, then these are the consequences. Children love that more when they know that they have failed. And sometimes you don't beat them. See, my strong-willed child, he broke more rules a lot than his brother. And many times he knew the consequences of breaking the rule. But many times I did not beat him. Many times I didn't beat him. Because I wanted him to understand the grace of God. So many times I will call him and I'll say, don't do that next time. I told those yesterday that in my house, no dating in high school. This boy gave me white hair from grade 8 all the way to 11. They call us from school. Finn's girlfriend. I'm like... He spent one term in public school. One term. We put him in public high school for one term. In that one term, by the way, he thinks he's handsome like his dad. So by that one time, it was headache. I had to bring him back to Christian school because it was too much. But with him, I understand he challenges boundary, and I work with him on that, talk with him. He's also the one that wants a lot of word from me. He wants a lot of affirmation, his brother does not need affirmation from me. His brother is self-motivated. If he does not get A, he actually thinks there's nobody that is smarter than him. Because all his life to high school, he was the valedictorian, he beat the next person by, it wasn't even close. His GPA was 4.8 over 4, only in America. But, only in America. But guess what happened when they go to college? All the other valedictorians, they all now meet. And he, for the first time, he realized that some other person is smarter than him. And he did not take it very well. He did not. I'm serious. He did not. He almost lost his scholarship his first year. And I had to call him because this was the first time that he was facing challenge. And the challenge is that somebody is smarter than me. Me, I've always believed I'm more handsome than everybody. Smart, I don't care, you know. But thank God he was able to adjust and all these things. So, you need to plan, you need to use godly principle, you need to read books, you need to understand how am I going to raise this kid. And then, once they start to age, you start to change your relationship with them. The way you deal with 13-year-old is not the same way you deal with a 17-year-old. And for God's sake, please don't teach them your ideology. Teach them God's ideology. If they ask you a question and you don't know, say you don't know. Tell them we're going to go research and we'll find out. I don't know who I told this story. Maybe it's Pastor. A friend of mine, good friend of mine, he grew up in a white garment church. And when he was growing up, during Easter, the church elders say to the children, ask us whatever question you want to ask. This guy is an amazing guy. He's a genius, actually. I believe he's a genius. Very high IQ guy. He became a millionaire at 23. Wow. Lost it, lost the whole money, became a millionaire again. Came to America within a year, became a millionaire. This guy loses money like because he's very smart. So when he was 10 years old at church, White Garment Church in Nigeria, he asked the elders that say ask any question. He said, if Jesus died on Friday and rose on Sunday, that's not 3 days, so because if you count it, the elders did not know the answer to the question. Instead of them to tell the boy, we will look for answer for you, they beat him. I'm serious, they beat him. They call him the Antichrist. Because he asked a question that they can't answer. I hope some of you know the answer to that, right? Some of you don't know. If your children ask you, Daddy, if Jesus died on Friday and rose on Sunday, that's not 3 days. The answer is very simple. The Jewish day starts at sunset. So Jesus did not die on Friday. He died on Thursday, our calendar Thursday. Because in our day starts at 12 midnight. The Jewish calendar starts at sunset. Now it makes sense, but those people didn't know. They picked him. They called him Antichrist. And they are elders at church. How many times have our parents, our children ask us questions that we don't know? When my son came home and said he wants to do biomedical engineering, I did not know what it meant. I didn't. I know chemical engineering, I know mechanical, the one that we know from home. I said, biomedical, well, how much do they make? That's the first question I asked. What do they do? So I went online, Google, I go for Google. And I said, okay, this is not bad. And I told him, I said, based on what I've seen, you have to do PhD. He said, yes. After 2 years of college, he said, I don't want to do research anymore. I'm like, you're already doing this, But now, the more I study, the more I see how expanded the field is. I did not before. But I followed him, I researched. When he asked me questions, I answered. When my children and I discuss Bible, I don't tell them you must believe this. I tell them, next time we do prayer meeting, we're going to study that. So bring your question. Bring your question. Then we study. What does the Bible say about this? My older son came to me and we were talking about losing salvation or not losing salvation. I said, okay, that's fine. I'm not going to tell you what I believe. Let's study. And you can come to whatever decision. I'm not afraid of that. And by the way, just so you know, between ages 15 and 18, those critical years, your children will abandon faith. Most of them. Don't be afraid. They will come back. That's why Proverbs said, if you have trained the children in the way they should go, because that is just the way the brain and the hormone were. I was one of those children who left. I left. 15. I told my parents, I am not coming to church again. And I didn't go until after youth corps. Because I thought all of them were hypocrites. Then eventually, I met God myself, and He became my God instead of my parents' gods. And the things I learned while I was that age now started to make sense and come back. By the way, when I was 5, I used to dress like pastor. 5. I have a picture. I have a French suit. I would turn it so it will have the black thing. I will wear my white shirt, turn it around so it look like I have collar. But I had no clue what I was doing. It was just fun. And by 13, I go to church every day. Why did I go to church? Girls. I didn't go for what the pastor was saying. I didn't even know anything. I don't remember anything the pastor said. But at that age, there were a lot of girls my age. We all are in the choir. We all look forward to going for choir practice. Do you think it's to sing? Because the choir master was always knocking our head in church because we were not concentrating. Don't worry, he will come back. I was one of those prodigals that came back. Okay, let's ask questions.